All right, moving right along here, we have our Mystery Energy Force Challenge Part 2, in which we're going to take the pattern that we discussed in Part 1, and we're going to apply it to some other objects and start to have a little more fun with it. So I'm not going to so much go back over. If you don't understand this pattern, please go back through, take the time on Part 1. And on Part 2, here we have our clockwise rotations, left hand, clockwise vertical, right hand, clockwise horizontal. And we're going to take this pattern and we're going to put down the blocks and we're just going to tinker around with some objects and show you what that's going to look like no matter what you may be holding. So this is a little magnet and this is a Sharpie. There's no magnetism to it. So when you're filling this out, I don't want you to necessarily jump to conclusions. I just want you to play around a little bit with that same pattern. So on my left, I'll be doing rotations vertically, and on the right, horizontally. And I can't really fill it out too much. I'm going to spin this one around a little bit, see if it lines up and gives me a blip, as discussed in the first one. And let's see. All right, there we go. Starting to feel a little something. And I'm feeling the same sort of pushing and pulling of a small, minute 0.2 to 0.5 grams. And so just with the Sharpie, no matter what the shape is, 90 degrees at a time, 90 degrees at a time. And what you'll come to find is it doesn't matter what objects you're holding or what degree of magnetism they have or don't have. This is going to take effect. And you just need to get familiar with picking up different shapes of objects and applying that exact same pattern. And so this is working. We'll be moving on to the weight shifts in the next video. We're going one step at a time. First video was wax on, wax off. This is applying that stuff in a way which will start to amp it up. But for now, anything and everything that you can get your hands on and comfortably maintain this pattern, you can practice. So you put that down. Here on this, doesn't matter, whatever you can hold in your hands. So this one I was tinkering with earlier. And let's see. Ooh, this feels really strong together. So it's wanting to push that way. I'm going to try to orient it by tinkering with both objects till I feel it pulling upwards, which I am now starting to feel. It's kind of heavy, but either way, I wanted to show you that whatever you can put your hands on, you just want to keep the same orientation. This thing's pushing and pulling really hard between these two objects. There's no magnetism going on here. But as I rotate through this pattern, it's amazing how much you can feel the weight shifting around. And then, yeah, I'm just going to try to describe what I'm feeling here. When I do this, I feel it pushing and pulling between these two objects. When I follow the pattern, I feel this getting stronger. You just feel a force start to emerge. And when it's in effect, can just spin the scissors. It almost feels like an energetic facet passing. You can feel the energy passing through, pushed through into this object, just between these two things that I can hold in my hand. And so if it feels stronger, you can go back. If you go the wrong way, it's like I can feel the energy pushing through as I orient it downwards. And so when I feel that, that's where I want to really start. Yep. Ooh, now it really kicked in. So now it's, when I have it correctly, when you have it correctly, you'll feel this. And that's a good one. Actually, I can really feel it strongly between these two objects. So that's a fun one. Moving on, we've got some natural objects, pine cones, and a lot of the times it's really easy to feel this out in natural pine cones, seashells, crystals. This just seems to be a little easier to feel out with these sort of objects. And yeah, once again, I just got to feel it out a little bit. Oh, okay, that's right there. Just that orientation, it just kicked. And so, I don't know if I have it quite right. We'll see. I got to get it like this. There, that feels really good. Ooh, okay. So this will really help you get your muscle memory right to pick up various objects, and you will be able to feel whether you have this pattern totally precisely or not. You'll be able to feel it out between the two objects. I maintain that you are the instrument that's going to break this one wide open, and then we can take all sorts of logical, instrumentational sort of experiments, everything under the sun with logic. But for now, I want people to have a little trust and faith in their own fingers and their own selves, because that is the way this cookie is going to crumble, or else this would already be known. So it takes the power of the subjective tinkering time to break the plane on these new concepts. And then once the subjective side of tinkering has been done, we can come in there with the Cartesian sweeper and start to really pick it apart, look at it, experiment with it, understand it. But for now, you are the actual mechanism of discovery, and you are essential. So I don't want anybody to feel strange or silly for taking the time to be picking up different objects. This is literally what's required. And so, as pioneers of the unknown, taking the Mystery Force Challenge, it will be interesting as you spend a little more time with this. Ooh. And once again, if it's not working with one, switch hands. Ooh, okay. I'm feeling something between these two things. And so I get to that blip, and I start with, I'm trying to kind of feel it out, kind of feeling it a little bit, get the right orientation. And this is a piece of glass, aventurine glass, and then a cut crystal. And yep, once again, you start to, as this pattern emerges, you'll start to feel it. And it's not too strong, not near as strong as in the scissors and the tape measure there. So that's another thing. If it's not too strong with one object in one hand, switch hands and then go switch objects until sometimes objects will also be more active in one part of the day than the other, or one day to the next. That's part of the whole mystery here. That's why it gets written off as, pseudoscience, is because it's not 1,000 out of 1,000 times. And it doesn't mean it's not worth looking into. That means it's a mystery. So, once again, just kind of feeling out the mystery and getting your own experience with it. And you'll hopefully quickly find something curiously intriguing about what I'm showing you for yourself. And we can get many other takes. We will require many takes before this is all said and done. And just being afraid to be wrong is a stifling factor in moving these sort of concepts forward. And being afraid to be wrong is the biggest mistake you could make. So once again, thank you for exploring this. I'm just trying to show you. All right, there we go. I'm just trying to make sure that you understand it. It's irrelevant what you're holding. This is a universal thing. The pattern on the blocks is to try to get the muscle memory right, to do it with anything you may be holding, which fits in your paw. So I can feel it pushing and pulling there as I go around. And as you notice, always keeping in the exact same orientation that I showed with the blocks. Now, here's a little extension of this situation. Once you really start to get it in close proximity, and you really get the muscle memory, take your span with your objects and work them farther apart, and you will find that this effect becomes non-local. And you can hold it out as far as you can and continue this pattern precisely. it will continue to push and pull. And so what we have is a proximity based in the beginning, and then it becomes non-local. That's just something that you will have to fill out for yourself. And actually, after this effect starts to take place, it doesn't matter where you may be, you can have this on its own or this on its own, and you can still feel this pushing and pulling going on. And it doesn't seem to go away. These objects are now forever associated, and I don't want to make overly unprovable claims, but what it feels like, and this is what it feels like through the experience of it, is it feels like macro entanglement. The spin field orientation of these two objects brings them into entanglement. We'll call it that. I don't know. We'll call it into association. And then once this happens, then it becomes non-local. And you will experience for yourself the same pushing and pulling is happening regardless of how close these objects are in your hand anymore. So that's another part of this mystery I would like for you to experience, because I don't know if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, might be a duck. And maybe it's just that simple, folks. Maybe it's been under our noses the whole time, and we kind of outthink ourselves from being able to feel it out. So here we are, just another set of objects. It's got a glass table weight and an old metal toy. And once again, I'm just trying to find a good starting point. Upside down, right side up, until I get a blip. Oh, I think go backwards. All right, now that I've got that lined up, quarter turn for the truck, quarter turn for the glass. Same exact pattern. And once this effect starts to take place, it doesn't take long, just it's already, a spin or two of the right orientation, and it starts to hold. And then, yeah, as I'm spinning this one right here, I feel the angular momentum somewhat shifting through this other object that I'm holding. And as I spin this one here, I can likewise feel it pushing and pulling a little bit on this other object. Nothing as good as the scissors and the measuring tape. Maybe it's because that has the biggest weight difference between them, and so maybe a light object and a heavier object could possibly help feeling this out for anybody that's having a hard time with it. And yeah, just whatever you're holding, as long as you can hold it in this orientation, you can get this to work. Glass is an interesting one. I've had pretty good results with glass. You can feel it pretty strongly with glass. So there's another example, and you've got an old ampere meter and a seashell. And we're going to just try to see. We're just going to try to, once again, kind of feel it out a little bit until we feel that blip, and we'll continue the pattern. There it is. We'll continue the pattern from there, precisely the same as the blocks. And you'll feel it slip in and out. If you get a little bit off, like this way or that way, with one versus the other, you can feel it in the other one. And so just go back and then continue the pattern. And that's why I'm saying, like, precision is more effective than speed. This does, in my experience, doesn't have anything to do with building up with speed. You'll feel it when the precision is correct, and it will give you blips and pushes and pulls. And like I showed in the first video, to get it to do the upwards momentum weight shifts the best, you'll start to move this object in your left hand a bit over the one in your right hand to really start to get it to kick upwards. It's almost like something's pinching it and going whoop, whoop on an invisible string, more like an invisible elastic, stretchy string that just kind of wants to pull upwards. And so, once again, I'm just feeling it out between these two objects, and that's just once again a muscle memory pattern, and just interesting experiments for you to go poke around and see what some objects are stronger than others, and see what you can come up with. This is just general guidance, and there's no end to the variations that you can experiment with once you have the basic concept. Oh, cool. Oof, just kicked up. So that means I really got it oriented correctly. From there, I kind of lost it. But yeah, you'll get practice keeping this pattern precise. And when you get it precisely and you start moving it apart farther and farther, it'll tickle you pink. You'll just be like, oh man, I know what he's talking about now. I'm just trying to describe it as best as I can. And this isn't a form of mentalism. We're just not going to waste our time there. It's real. I can measure it on a scale. You can experience it for yourself. And if you can't believe your own experience in your own fingertips because you have such little faith in yourself, well, I guess I appreciate your time, and we've hit a wall. Because sometimes people can't believe their own eyeballs and can't believe their own fingertips. And at that point in time, I say, thanks for playing. I really appreciate you giving it a try. But that's as far as I can go. So the participative aspect of this is always going to be, it's always going to be a thorn in the side of somebody that has a strict Cartesian mindset. They're going to go, it's pseudoscience because it's subjective. So, if that's something that you hold so deeply that you can't at least put that aside for the thought experiment involved here of trying out something new, well, I appreciate you checking it out, but that's a you problem. So I sure hope that the self-evident truth aspect of this can give you a little experience and blip and a push and a pull in your hand. And then you go, wow, that's not imaginary. My fingers just felt something and I'm going to explore further. So I do understand that some people cannot believe it no matter what. And so I say thanks for playing. And we can't go any further, but for the rest of us, let's go ahead and entertain the idea that you actually are the most suited and the most precise instrument possible to deal with this matter. And then we can get all that logic involved, but you actually are the tip of the spear as far as this idea going further. So you are an integral link into this process. And it is very subjective. So we got shampoo here and just like a wooden doodad here. And even with liquid stuff, it doesn't seem to matter. Still feel it out. So you can just pretty much whatever you can fit in your hand. I'm just kind of rotating it until I get a strong blip. That's pretty good. And then, like I said, once it's kind of entangled, that needs to get a little bit better. Then you'll not have to really move the right object as much. And you can play around right above it and get kind of upward pulls and blips. And those are the things that I would find, the moments where all of a sudden I hit it just right. And then, whoop, don't do that. But hit the pattern just right and I can feel it in my fingertips, literally pulling upwards. Well, that's when you're going to get your strongest weight shifts. And so you actually have to feel that out for yourself. You have to use your own fingertips and your own experience. So once again, there's a little bit of a cognitive dissonance that makes this remain elusive. And there's plenty of room for the Cartesian investigation. But for now, we have to rely upon our own intuition, our own experience. Have a little faith in yourself and have a little fun feeling this out with different objects as you kind of get the hang of it. I'm just in general trying to make sure that nobody feels limited because they don't have certain special objects to tinker with or blocks or whatever. There's nothing special about any of this stuff. It works with everything. The blocks are really helpful in the muscle memory to where you can grab, that's pretty strong, grab whatever objects. There's a chunk of quartz and a chunk of glass. You can feel this interaction taking place. So, yeah, we can apply what we learned in part one to this actual application of wax on, wax off into some real world karate. And then you will be able to get more experience with this in hand, because you're the ultimate instrument that's going to be able to determine when it's time to weigh it, because you'll feel it. You'll go, okay, well, I know it when I feel it. Whoop, it's pulling upwards. Whoop, put it on the scale. You'll get your weight shift. And everybody will understand what's what. So this is just more encouragement, muscle memory. No matter what you're holding, this will work. To what degree kind of depends on your the time of day, almost the time of year, it seems. Gosh, it's so many unknowns. Who knows whether it has to do with cosmological things or weather things or geological things. That's why we need more people to check it out. These fluctuations intrigue me. They don't turn me off. They don't make me go ostrich on the subject. They tell me that it's a mystery, and I do like a good challenge. So please do just keep tinkering on with whatever you can pick up and start to get a feel for this, because as you do, you will become the fine-tuned instrument, and you will be able to determine when it's time to weigh your object, and you will succeed in the small but measurable weight shifts.